Hey everyone, so today's video is going to be an update for my makeup inventory. I actually completely forgot that I film these videos every 6 months for you guys because I haven't filmed videos in a while. I'm sort of getting back into the swing of things right now. So I'm really excited to update you guys on my makeup inventory. And actually, surprisingly, my total number of products in my inventory has not changed. But it's interesting to see which categories have sort of gone up and down because some categories have changed quite a bit. So just the way my makeup categories are dispersed and the specific numbers of products in each category have changed, but the actual total number of products has not changed, which I find really interesting. You could potentially see that as a bad thing because I do kind of want to be making my inventory smaller and smaller and decreasing the size of my collection just because I feel like I can't use everything I have in my collection right now. But because the number has not gone up and down, that just means I've decluttered the same amount of products that I've brought into my collection. So I know I have been purchasing a lot more makeup recently, but I'm also sort of just working on curating my collection a lot better. So anyways, let's just go ahead and get straight into each category of my makeup inventory. So the first category we have is face primer. I previously had 5. When I say previously, I did film my last makeup inventory at the end of December 2021. So this is over the span of 6 months. I previously had 5 face primers and now I have 4. I do also like to set a goal each time I film my makeup inventory. I kind of reassess my goal each makeup inventory. So previously my goal was to only have 3 primers. I feel like my goal would still be to have 3 primers. I am okay with having 4 right now, but I know I don't really need 4 in my collection. I'm not necessarily using them all at once. The majority of the time, I'm pretty much focusing on 1 face primer, so I feel like 3 would be a good number, maybe even 2. Next up, we have foundation, and I did previously have 5, and now I have 4, and I did declutter a couple, but then I also brought in a couple more, but I'm happy to have that decreased by 1. My goal for that one was to only have 2 foundations, which I feel like 2 is, I mean, that could be a good number, but I feel like just because I love makeup so much and I love trying new products, I'm probably gonna stick to like 4 or 5. I am happy with where I'm at right now, but actually now saying that, I never wear foundation or very rarely because most of the days I'm just doing a really minimal makeup look, so I will just throw on some concealer in these places where I feel like I need a little bit more coverage. So I rarely wear a foundation all over my face. So now thinking about it, I probably realistically only need 2 foundations just because I mostly only wear them for special occasions or if I'm doing a full face of makeup. The next category is concealer, and this one has gone up a little bit. I previously had 4 and now I have 6, which isn't too much of a jump, but I know I've purchased a few concealers that I didn't necessarily need recently, but I am really happy to have them in my collection, and I'm actually almost finished with 1 concealer, so I'm not worried about this number. Like I said, most of the days I usually go for a really minimal look where I'm only wearing concealer, so if I am applying makeup, concealer is the one product that I will always be wearing, so I do tend to go through it relatively quickly, so I am okay right now at my number of 6. My goal was to only have 2, which I feel like I almost never will have 2 concealers in my collection. I do like a little bit more of a full coverage, and then I also want one that's a little bit more sheer, and then potentially maybe a more medium coverage concealer. So for this category, and I feel like with all the categories, there's obviously different finishes and different types of concealers. So I feel like 2 is not a very realistic number. I think 4 would be a little bit better here. So I am going to change that goal to 4 just because I feel like I can have a really light coverage concealer, a full coverage concealer, and then maybe like a more matte one, a more sort of dewy, glowy one. And I also know that I do really like trying concealers, so I do always want to have a few in my collection that I can rotate through. And I find that I do tend to rotate through my concealers a lot, depending on the type of coverage and finish that I'm looking for. Next up, we have powders. I previously had 9 and now I have 7. I didn't bring any into my collection. I believe that's just from declutters. I would like to have 3 powders in my collection. I'm thinking maybe like a loose powder, a pressed powder, and then maybe a more glowy finishing type of powder. So I am going to keep that number at 3. I know I am trying to go through a few powders right now, and I'm close to being done with a couple of them. I also rarely use powder, and when I do use powder, I don't use very much, so it takes me a while to go through them. Powder is also not a product that excites me, and I don't necessarily want to try a lot of powders, so I am okay with having 3, maybe even 2 in my collection at once, just because I do like a more dewy and glowy complexion, and I'm also a little bit more on the dry side, so I feel like I don't need powders all the time, especially in the winter. Next up, we have brow products, which brow products is a category that never concerns me, similar to powders, where I just use the few brow products that I have. I use them up and then I will repurchase different ones, or either the same ones, kind of sticking to my holy grails in that category. So I previously had 5, I still have 5. I would like to get it down to like 4, maybe 3, but right now I have a brow pencil, a brow pen, a clear brow gel, and then a tinted brow gel. So I feel like that is sort of a good array of products to have for my brows. That way I can kind of just use what I feel like using. If I want a very minimal look, I'll usually just go in with a tinted brow gel and not use a pencil or a pen. So I feel like 4 or 5, maybe even 3 brow products would be a good number, but I'm not concerned about this category at all. Next up, we have cheek products, and I do split up my cheek products from creams and powders just because I've recently fallen in love with creams, so I realize I've bought so many, so I feel like it's beneficial for me to split it up and see how many creams versus powders I have, because I do sort of use them in different ways, and I tend to reach for creams a lot more than I reach for powders. So for bronzer, I previously had 8 powder bronzers, now I have 7, so I'm happy to see that go down by 1. I believe I did declutter 1. My goal would be 3, which I feel like I don't even necessarily need 3, maybe 2 would be a better number. But like I said, I do have 7 right now, so I know I'm not gonna go through those anytime soon. A lot of my bronzers don't even have pan on them, and I feel like powder products take me so long to go through. So I know 2 is a realistic goal, but it's not realistic to reach anytime soon. So I'm just gonna leave that goal at 3. And then cream bronzers, I previously had 3 and now I have 5. So I have brought a couple into my collection just because I know I wanted to try out some different forms of cream bronzer. So I did actually purchase a concealer that I'm using as a bronzer, and then I forget what the other one I purchased was, but I also want to purchase a stick bronzer at some point. I might try to finish off some other bronzers before I end up purchasing any more, but my goal for cream bronzer is to only have 3. I feel like I don't need a ton, but like I said, there are sort of different forms of cream bronzer similar to every other makeup product. So I would like to have like a stick bronzer, one that's in like a compact, and then maybe like a liquid bronzer would be sort of my ideal amount and types of bronzers. I do expect to have more creams just because I use them a lot more. So moving on to blushes. Powder blush, I previously had 14, now I have 13, so I believe that was just a declutter. I would like to have 8 powder blushes, but I know there's not any. If there might be like a couple I could declutter, but I know I don't really want to declutter any powder blushes, so I don't know how this number is gonna go down because it takes literally forever to use up powder blushes and blushes in general. So I would prefer to have this number go down a little bit at least, but right now I'm at 13. I went down 1 since the last update, so I am happy with that. Then we have cream blushes. I previously had 14 and now I have 15, so again, that number did go up. I do love cream blushes, and cream blushes are my weakness, so I'm okay with having this number be a little bit higher just because I love cream blushes and they bring me so much joy. So I would prefer to have maybe 10 cream blushes, although there are so many cream blushes that I want to try and it just takes so long to go through them. So like I said, there's not really any that I can think of that I want to declutter right now. Actually, there kind of is one if I really wanted to declutter one, or some. I can think of one, but other than that, there's really none that I want to declutter. So I don't see this number going down, but hopefully it will remain the same at least. And I did actually total up these numbers, so I kind of forgot. So for bronzers, this is totaling up creams and powders. For bronzers, I previously had 11 and now I have 12, so that's not too bad. I just went up by 1. And then for blushes, I previously had 28 and I still have 28. So I went down 1 in powder blushes, but I increased by 1 in cream blushes. So like I said, I do use creams more, so I am still okay with that number. And then for highlighters, I previously had 12 powder highlights and this is now down to 5, which I'm really happy about. Actually my goal previously was to get down to 6 and I actually surpassed that goal. So I have 5 powder highlighters right now. I don't see myself really purchasing any. Powder highlights or highlights in general, sort of like face powders or brow products, don't really excite me, and there's not a ton of highlighters that I want to try. I feel like to an extent a highlighter is a highlighter. I mean, I guess you could say that about blushes and bronzers too, or any makeup category, but highlighter just for me is not the thing that excites me the most about makeup. It's not like my favorite product to apply. While I do really love a good highlight, I do definitely prefer or enjoy cream blushes and even bronzers a little bit more, and just trying new products from those categories. So like I said, there's not a ton of highlighters on my wish list even, so I don't see myself purchasing a lot of them, and I don't see this number going up a lot. So powder highlights, I am happy where I'm at, and I'm probably not going to finish many off, but I have 5 right now. I would rather have maybe like 2 or 3, so I'm gonna put this down to 3 just because I feel like I don't rotate through my highlighters enough. I feel like I still kind of have too many. And then for cream highlighters, I previously had 5, now I have 6, so I did purchase 1. And my goal with this one was actually 6, so I am okay with that going up, because I also, with highlighters, there's like liquid highlighters, stick highlighters, highlighters in pan form, so there's sort of different types of cream highlighters. So I am okay with having a few more creams than I do have powders. And I feel like this category is at a good point right now. In total, I only have 11 highlighters, which is pretty good. I would like to get that down, maybe a couple, but it also takes forever to finish up highlighters. I am actually working on panning a couple highlighters, so I do see this going down at some point, hopefully by the end of the year or soon. But out of all my categories, like cheek categories, highlighters is definitely the one that I have like under control. Bronzers aren't too bad. I am still happy with my bronzer collection, but blushes are really my weakness, and that's where I could do a little bit better. Next up, for face palettes, I previously had 9 and now I have 8. So I think I must have decluttered a couple, and then I also know I brought in one. I would rather this be at a number closer to 5, because 8 for me, face palettes, I don't really reach for face palettes very often, if not like ever, very rarely. So I feel like this number shouldn't be that high, but I also can't bring myself to declutter any of the face palettes that I have. So I don't really see this number going down, but I really just don't want it to go up. Next up, for eyeshadow palettes, which I have recently brought in a few eyeshadow palettes. So I was expecting this number to go up a little bit, but I actually had 24 previously, and now I only have 23. So again, we went down by 1, but we still went down even though I purchased some eyeshadow palettes. So clearly I decluttered a few. And by the way, I did do the whole decluttering series on camera and filmed it for you guys. So those videos are up on my channel. I do have a whole decluttering playlist if you want to go check that out. It is linked in the description box. So for eyeshadow palettes, I would rather be at a number closer to 20, but 23 again isn't too bad. I just feel like I can't rotate through all of my eyeshadow palettes and get enough love out of all of them. So I would rather be under 20 for my eyeshadow palettes, but that's not a super realistic goal, just because I know I don't really want to declutter any eyeshadow palettes that I have in my collection, at least not at the moment. And then I also keep track separately of my single eyeshadows that are in a pan, like basically my magnetic single eyeshadows. So those previously were at 47 and are now at 33. So I actually decluttered a whole palette of single magnetic shadows. I am really happy with that. My goal was 50, so I was already under my goal. I knew I didn't want to go past 50, but I'm really happy that I was able to declutter a whole palette. I feel like for single eyeshadows, I don't need 50. That's kind of a lot. So I'm actually gonna set this to 30 now that I have decluttered all those, and I still feel like I have a lot of single shadows in my collection. So currently at 33, I would like to get down to 30 or maybe under 30. Then for single shadows, so this is like single shadows in pot form or like single liquid shadows. I previously had 11 and now I have 10. My goal would be to have 6, but I've actually been getting back into single eyeshadows and doing one and done eyeshadow looks, especially when I'm doing a really minimal makeup look. So I am actually okay with having 10 single shadows. I tend not to reach for liquid shadows, so I would be okay getting rid of some of those. I'm gonna keep my goal at 6 just because I don't want a ton of these in my collection, because I tend not to reach for just like singular packaged eyeshadows. I tend just to dip into an eyeshadow palette, and you obviously can get one and done shadows out of eyeshadow palettes. And I do also want to get a lot of love out of my eyeshadow palettes. So I don't want to have too many single shadows, because I know I can still get that single shadow effect out of like an eyeshadow palette just using one shadow. Then we have eyeliners, which again, eyeliners is not a category I am concerned about. I previously had 2 and now I have 4. That is only because I did make an order from Makeup Geek, and because their shipping was delayed, they threw in a couple free eyeliners, which was really nice, and I'm really happy to have them. And I do actually really love the shades that I got. Like the shades that I got, if I were purchasing them, are probably the shades that I would have picked out. So that worked out really well, and I'm happy to have them in my collection. I never ever buy eyeliners, and this is something I learned a while ago because I know I just don't wear eyeliners. So I am happy to have those 4 in my collection. They're all different shades, so I don't want like a bunch of black or a bunch of brown eyeliners. Actually, I don't have a black or brown eyeliner even in my collection, so I do like those more sort of unique shades if I'm going to have eyeliners, but I never purchase eyeliners. Like I said, this is not a category that I'm worried about. My goal for this one was actually 0, but I kind of like having them in my collection just if I feel like reaching for an eyeliner. I know I have a couple there to choose from. Now we're getting into all of the lip products, which are the last categories. I did split them up into 4 categories: lip liners, liquid lipsticks, and then lip glosses. So lip liners, I previously had 11, now I have 10, which I'm really happy about. I feel like I don't even need 10 lip liners. Obviously, I can only use 1 lip liner at once. I feel like the shades I have in my collection, some of them are a little bit similar, so I know I don't need 10. My goal would be to only have 6 lip liners, around 6 or 5. And then for liquid lipsticks, I previously had 6, now I have 5, so I did declutter a few. I also brought in a couple. So my goal with liquid lipsticks is to only have 4. I never reach for liquid lipsticks, and very rarely do I reach for liquid lipsticks, I should say, because I just don't wear a matte type of formula on my lips. I say that as I'm wearing a matte red lip, which I literally never wear this kind of color. So I know I don't need a ton of liquid lipsticks in my collection, and I never buy liquid lipsticks anyways. I did bring in a couple to my collection because I purchased the Oden's Eye mystery box, which I got a couple in there, and I actually liked those shades, so I kept them in my collection, and they're very unique formulas as well. So I can see myself bringing in a liquid lipstick that's not like a traditional liquid lipstick if it's some sort of unique liquid lipstick formula, but I don't see this number really going up at all. Then with lipsticks, I previously had 22. Now I actually have 25, which my goal was to have 10. Bullet lipsticks for me, I tend not to reach for like a classic bullet lipstick. I also know this category has only gone up because I purchased some tinted lip balms, which I'm slowly becoming obsessed with, which is kind of bad because I already have enough lipsticks in my collection. So the tinted lip balms that I have in my collection, I do count as lipsticks just because they're sort of in like a bullet lipstick form. But I do go through tinted tinted lip balms a lot quicker than I go through like your traditional bullet lipstick. So I know there's a lot of lipsticks in my collection. I could probably do a better job of decluttering some of them, although I've kind of decluttered my collection so much, I feel like there's not much more I want to get rid of. So I am okay with this number for now. I know the tinted lip balm type of products I do use up pretty quickly, so I'm okay with having a few of those. And there are also a few lipsticks I'm trying to pan some right now, and I'm kind of close to finishing some off. But I know a lot of lipsticks in my collection do get neglected, so I feel like my next declutter, I could be a little bit more ruthless. So I hope this number goes down. It's definitely not going to go up. I feel like 10 is a little bit of an unrealistic goal. Right now, I'm actually going to change it to 15 just because I feel like that's a little bit more reachable, especially in like the near future. Eventually, I would like to only have like 10 lipsticks in my collection. And then the last category for lip glosses, I previously had 29 and I now have 23, which is actually really, really good. That makes me feel a little bit better about my lipstick collection going up a little bit. So I would like to have only 20 glosses, which I know is still a lot. I do want less than 20 eventually, but there's just so many formulas I want to try, and I'm actually going to change this number to 15. So 15 lipsticks and 15 lip glosses, preferably. I am kind of close to that number, just depending on, I mean, I could do a declutter tomorrow and easily get down to those numbers, but I don't just want to declutter products to declutter products. And I am okay with where my makeup collection is at right now. So in total, I did total up my lip products. The total number I had previously was 68, and now I have 63 lip products in total. So that's adding together the liners, liquid lipsticks, and glosses. So I'm glad overall that number did go down. I would want it to be closer to around 40, but right now I am okay at that number. I know there's a few lip glosses and lipsticks, even lip liners that I'm working on panning, and I'm always working on panning products, even if they're not in a project pan. So I am okay with where my collection is at right now. I actually really, really enjoy like bringing new products into my collection, so I don't regret any of the purchases that I've made this year so far, and I am very, very conscious of my purchases. That is basically what this whole channel is about, and curating my makeup collection. So I make sure to only purchase products that are going to add some type of value to my collection, and I do tend to purchase products that are a little bit more unique, shades that I don't already have in my collection. So I am really happy with where my inventory is currently at. Like I said, the total number of products stayed the same. So I do have 245 products in my collection in total. I've mentioned this before, I would like to keep my collection below 200 products. And I was previously below 200 products, but I was also counting my makeup inventory differently. So the way I count my inventory now is I count my magnetic shadows as single pans, which is why it has increased so much. So technically being under 250, I'm still reaching my under 200 makeup products goal, because if I take away those single magnetic pans that I count for each separate pan, I am basically subtracting like, what was it, 33 single eyeshadows that I have. So I am still at a really good place with my makeup inventory, and I'm excited to curate my collection a little bit more. I feel like there are a few products here and there that I can declutter. It's funny how you do a makeup declutter and you feel like there's nothing else you want to get rid of, and then a few months later you find a few products that either you're just not reaching for or using at all, and you feel like you don't really need them in your collection anymore. So I will probably do another declutter at some point before the end of the year, at least like a smaller declutter, not going through each makeup category in my collection, but definitely a smaller type of declutter, because I already see some products here and there in my collection that I could potentially declutter and that I'm just not getting enough use out of. So if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. I would also really love to know, what is your weakness when it comes to makeup? For me, it is definitely my blush category, and also lip glosses, or now tinted lip balms that I'm really getting into. So leave a comment down below letting me know that, because I love chatting to you guys in the comments. And I do post a new video once a week, so if you want to see more from me, make sure to subscribe and don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notified every time I post. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.